Hey, good evening and welcome to another Army Reenlistment live stream. Master Sergeant Tim Donahue, and this is the team that we got tonight. Sergeant First Class Sam Block will not be with us tonight. She actually reenlisted today into the NCO CSP program, the Career Status Program, at the Lincoln Memorial in DC. So that was pretty cool. So she'll be on next week. All right. Shantae hasn't been on in a while. Go ahead and tell everybody where you've been at.
You guys, I have been everywhere. So 2 weeks ago, I was out at Fort Hood. They call it the Great Place. I don't know why. But last week I was out at JBLM. So I was out visiting 3rd SFAB and 5th SFAB. So it was a great chance for me to get out there and really push the SFAB mission. So I'm back and I'm ready to interact with all of our fans.
All right, thank you, Shantae. And we also got AJ Silers here tonight. He went full name tonight, not AJ. He went Andrew. But he's here tonight. And AJ, what's been going on with you this week?
Nothing much. I got a new computer, and as anybody that's ever done a live can tell, I am not on said computer because it wanted to restart, and part of that restart is that it won't turn on now. So
I hope you kept the receipt.
Did you buy it from somebody in a trunk?
I bought it in Radcliffe, so I mean, it came. You know, I figured that was a good purchase. It was at the side of one of the stores out in Radcliffe, so I thought it was good. The guy gave me a receipt. It was on a piece of notebook paper, but I mean, it's the same thing. Shows the purchase price and everything, so I thought I was good.
Nah, I got you.
Radcliffe Bazaar.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Hey, so last week we did a little bit of about our Army story, the people that are on here on the team, and over the weekend we were trying to brainstorm what we were gonna do. We had something lined up. It fell through this week, but they're gonna be back next week.
I am not on said computer because
somebody's watching the live right now, so that's cool. But AJ was like, "Hey, we told our story, but there's other counselors out there that need to tell their story." So AJ, explain what you was talking about.
So what I was talking about is kind of like today. Whenever I went to turn on my computer, there was a little bit of adversity, and there is a lot of soldiers out there that they make a long-term decision based off a short-term situation. And I thought maybe it'd be a good idea to bring in some soldiers first, and they just happen to be career counselors because we're ArmyReenlistment.com, and have them tell their stories, their adversity, the adversities they had to overcome as soldiers, and then how they've gone on and excelled or done what they've done as career counselors.
Nah, that's awesome. All right, so we have 3 guests lined up, so they're gonna let them tell their stories, and then we're going to take some questions at the end. So questions and answers with everybody. All right. So our first guest is going to be Sergeant First Class Kendra Ford. She is a career counselor currently stationed at Fort Bliss, Texas. The semi-great place, I guess. I don't know what they really call it. I do know I did teach in El Paso one time, and they told me every time at the hotel, "Welcome to El Paso, the safest little city in America," which is funny because like on the other side of the border is like drug cartel capital, like it's no joke, right? But that's enough about El Paso. Sergeant Ford, introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sergeant First Class Kendra Ford. I am the DeVarty Senior Career Counselor here at Fort Bliss. I have been a 1AD soldier for 6 years, so it can't be that bad because I've been here a long time. The Army has decided that it's time for me to transition, so I will be PCSing in the summer. But it is a pretty safe place considering the location, things that are around it. To tell you a little bit about myself, I originally started my Army journey back in 1998. So I'm dating myself a little bit. I see why.
Like wine. Wine gets better with age.
That's it. Like a fine Merlot. So I originally joined the Army in 1998 as a 25 Victor, which is combat camera and video production. My story takes a little bit of a turn because the school was long and I thought I was doing something with maps, and I ended up doing something really cool and learning how to, and back then, again, I'm dating myself again, we had dark room and film, and Then we had video production. So that was pretty cool. I ended up actually getting chaptered out of the Army from there. I did graduate the course. So I was at Fort Meade for a ridiculous amount of time, but I met some really amazing people. But I transitioned to the IRR. And from the IRR,
what's the IRR? Because I'm not that smart with acronyms.
I got it. And it's the Individual Ready Reserves. So
okay.
I did not know it was a thing or that it existed or that there was something on my DD 214. I thought when they said return to sender that was going to be it, right? So I get a notice in the mail and it's like, you report to this unit. I'm like, I don't belong to you all anymore. But I ended up going to the 982nd Combat Camera Unit. Long story short, they ended up deploying. I did not go. So I went back into IRR. So I'm like, all right, bet I'm great. I got a few more years. I finally figured out what this thing is and I'm good. No, okay. I moved to Maryland. I got a job. I was doing well. I get a notification. You must report to this unit. Like, why are we doing this again? Right? Must be time. I ended up going to the 326 Maintenance Battalion. And I get there. And at this time, I think I gained like 100 pounds. So like I was over the Army. I was living my best life. I was eating everything. I was drinking. I don't know what PT is. It's not a thing to me anymore. And I remember going to the unit and I was like, I'm here, but I can't fit none of your uniforms. Y'all don't have combat camera. So y'all gonna sign this paper so I can go back. I got like a year left, obligation to anybody. And there was a command sergeant major there, a command sergeant major, Benita Davis. And she was like, you're going to come to this unit, you're going to do what you're supposed to do, and you're going to fulfill your obligation. No, lady, I'm not going to do that. I don't know. Long story short, I did that. Met with me that they wanted me to become supply. When I was I worked in a warehouse as an inventory manager, so I didn't want to count during the week and count on my weekends at drill either. That didn't resonate well with me. So they said, you can pick any job that we have a slot for. And they had a job for 25 Mike, which was back at Fort Meade in Denfos in the same schoolhouse. And I was like, bet, I'll do it. And they looked at me and they were like, we're not sending you to an active duty school. I was like, if I can lose this weight, will you send me? And it was like, absolutely. I didn't show up to drill for 7 months. I don't know how I was still in the reserves. It must have been a divine miracle. I showed back up to drill one day and no one recognized me. I lost 95 pounds. And they were like,
wow.
Okay. And I was like, I'm going to need that school. So I go to Fort Meade. Interesting thing is a young lady I went to AIT with was one of my instructors. That was very interesting. And I ended up staying in school, but I ended up becoming homeless at the time. And the way that happened is when you go to an active duty school from the reserves, it's weird how they have to process your pay. So if your reserve unit doesn't do what they're supposed to do, you may struggle a little bit. Yeah. So I was living in Maryland. I was at Fort Meade, and on the weekends, because they made me stay in the barracks, luckily, I went home and there was a note on my door and I had to make a decision. And that decision was, am I going to go to court and try to fight to have a place to stay when I graduate this course and still have no money because I don't know when my money is going to come in? Or is all these things in alignment and a sign that it's meant for me to go back on active duty? So I made a decision to go back on active duty. I became a career counselor, interesting enough, or even found out about it. There was a career counselor, Master Sergeant retired Stacy Everett. She was a geographical bachelor at Fort Meade. And we used to hang out. And when I graduated the course, she was like, I'm coming to your house. When I tell y'all, I came up with every excuse as to what she was going to go. Because I had no house. I was living in my car. I stayed in the hotel for a couple of days. I ran out of money. And then one day she was like, where do you stay? I was like, well, right now, this Nissan Sentra is kind of toasty at night. And I got a shower at work. And she was like, you're not doing that. She's like, my children are in another state. You're coming and staying with me. So I went and stayed with her until I transitioned back in. And I remember she used to go TDY. And I'm like, what do you do? She's like, I'm a career counselor. That sounds great. What do you do? She's like, I take care of soldiers. I'm like, everybody says they take care of soldiers. She's like, no, I get paid to take care of soldiers. And I was like, I want that job. She's like, well, it's going to take you a few years to be able to get it once you get back in. But if you want it, we'll do what we got to do to help you get it. Long story short, I came back in as an E2 in June 2007. As a 25 Mike, I went to Fort Gordon. By December 2008, I was a sergeant.
That's what I'm talking about.
I put my head down and colored. I learned all that I could. At this point, I took it again as a sign, and I never had intentions of getting out, and I knew, and I still said, I want to take care of soldiers. I want to become a career counselor if I can. I ended up working for the Signal Regimental Commander, the Signal Regimental Sergeant Major as a specialist, and one day, the retention sergeant major at the time was like, have you ever thought about doing retention? Well, now that you say it, yes, absolutely I have, but I've only been back in on active duty 4 years. Do I have time? And she was like, yeah, you're fine. She was like, but you're still gonna have to be a retention NCO, because at that point you had to be a retention NCO
6
for
months.
12 months. Right. Well,
Yeah.
she made herself, which worked. So I'm working for the general, but I'm still the retention NCO for my company. Try to make that work. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna do this packet. This is a sign. And I became a career counselor in May of 2010. I've been in every type of unit I think you can think of. My first assignment was one for FA out in Baumholder, Germany. Then I went to the hospital at Fort Riley, and then I went to Fort Bliss. So that's my
You've been there for a while.
I've been here a TT bit. I've been very fortunate, and I tell people, Signal made me, right? It's my thing. Like, Signal is the foundation of who I am. Signal made me, FA raised me, but infantry refined me. Because those 3 CMFs played such key roles in who I am and how I lead as a counselor, my volunteer efforts, and everything that encompasses, because I am a believer of servant leadership, because servant leadership is what helped me to get to where I am.
Most definitely. I definitely agree. Now that's an awesome story. Oh, Shantae got something.
Yes.
So when you brought up the infantry, I remember I knew who Sergeant First Class Ford was before I knew who Sergeant First Class Ford was. So you brought up the infantry, and that made me think, didn't you get something special from them?
Yes, I did. So last year, for 3 years, I was a member of 417 Infantry, and that was a phenomenal unit with phenomenal leaders. We deployed to Afghanistan together, and last year I was the first female ever to be inducted as a distinguished member of the regiment for 17th Infantry Regiment.
Oh, that's awesome. Very dope. That's very
amazing.
Dope. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, your story is amazing. Obviously the people on the side, they really loving it in the comments. It's very inspirational. Trust me, I my story is not like yours, but I was a hard-headed ass soldier. Like I tell soldiers every day, I could relate to them. That soldier that comes in the office that's been busted down, hey, it's not the end of the world. Trust me. I fought my platoon sergeant in Iraq. So that if I could come back and I could be a master sergeant, anything is possible.
Absolutely.
For your story is amazing.
Thank you.
And we're gonna have you sit back, because obviously we got questions for you already, but we got this other guest we gotta get on. Like I would rather not, but we gotta get him on.
He doesn't mean that. He doesn't mean that.
I'm joking, guys. I'm joking. Just a little bit. All right. So we're gonna have you come back in a few minutes. Relax. Thank you for sharing your story, though. It's very inspirational. All right. Next, we're gonna bring in Sergeant First Class Robbie Patterson. Right. Don't call him Robert, and make sure you don't call him Rob. You got to call him Robbie, right? I know Robbie. He became a instructor up at the schoolhouse when I was the proponent right before I left. Amazing. He's very, very passionate man. And Robbie, tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, again, Sergeant First Class Ford is hard story to follow up. You know, I've been thinking here, just wondering, like, what am I going to talk about? What kind of things can I do to inspire people across the Army, people across our career field? And like, first of all, I'm Sergeant First Class Patterson. I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina.
No.
The real hood, you know what I mean? As I always say. But like, so I'm gonna try not to take too long. You cut me off whenever you want to. But I always go back to when I was a little kid. And you know, I was adopted. I was drug out of my home and stuff like that. It's a long story, but the one thing that one person told me that somebody should never tell you when you're, I guess 7 years old, 8 years old, is my grandmother told me that you're never gonna be nobody more than what your mom is. And my mom was going through a hard time at the time. But like I was 7 years old. I'm sitting here trying to realize, and I knew what my mom did. I'm like, so why would you say that to a 7-year-old kid? And that rung through my ears through foster care and through coming up. And then like, you know, I started proving them right. You know, I was like, you know, because Fayetteville is a hard place to grow up. When I was 16 years old, I had my first kid. And I started doing waiter jobs, a lot of drugs, and just getting into the scene of Fayetteville. And if you know anything about Fayetteville, it's like crack capital of North Carolina. And so like I see myself going down this dark road, and I went through rehab one time, and I just told my mom, I was like, yeah, Mom, I think it's time for me to join the Army. And my mom being my mom, knowing the things to say to me, she says, you're not going to make it. Dude, you're not going to make it. And I'm like, Mom, why would you say that? She said, well, you got bad knees and you got a bad temper. You're not going to make it through basic training. I was like, well, I'm going to go. And she's like, please don't go. You're going to disappoint yourself. I'm like, well, I'm going to go anyways. So, I mean, long story short, I made it through basic AIT scot-free. You know, I thought I was a great soldier. I had a haircut that looks like Sadler's. And I thought I was 100. I didn't look as good as Sadler with the haircut. I got these kind of big ears, but so I get to Korea. Everything was going good. You know, I got up to specialist, and first of all, I joined as a 92 Fox, and lot of people. 92 Fox is a petroleum supply specialist, basically a gas truck driver, deliverer, gas man. You know, all you do is smell like fuel. The job sucks. I mean, if you hear Sergeant Lee says that 92 whiskeys are better, absolutely, because you don't smell like fuel.
You just smell like water.
You smell like water. And you just be clean all the time. But I got to Korea, and I heard y'all stories earlier talking about Korea, how it's awesome. I went there. I was 19 years old. It's the worst spot to send a 19-year-old guy that's never been out of North Carolina and never lived a childhood. So I got there, and you know, I hit the ground running. I made specialist in no time, and shortly after that, I got popped for underage drinking the first time. So, yeah, the first time. And so there's like, okay,
it was Korea, and he was 19. So
I was 19. That's my excuse. So I mean, I go down to PFC, and it's like, all right, cool, but you're just gonna go to the field. You're gonna do your extra duty. All I did in my extra duty was MWRs and concerts. So it was pretty rad. I had fun. And so once I got an extra duty, I automatically went to this place called Sportsman Bar. And sure enough, first drink, here's Sergeant Scott at the very end. I remember his name still. It was in 2006 when I was there. I remember his name, Sergeant Scott. He was my squad leader. He's like, just come on over here. I'm like, come on, Sergeant Scott. Just don't do this to me. He said, no, we're going to go ahead and go to MP station. So long story short, I got demoted again. And I had this chapter packet on me. And that's why I say never judge a book by its cover, because you never know how they will excel or what will happen with these people. And so everybody wanted me out. My first sergeant wanted me out. My sergeant major wanted me out. I spent half my time in Korea on extra duty, 90 days.
Yeah, Korea will do it to you.
And that's back to back. They're like, you know, I mean, my chapter pack was super thick because at that point I started funneling down. I started disrespecting everybody. If somebody told me something to do, I'm like, no, that's not happening. Kind of like Sergeant Ford was saying. But then I really was trying to fight him at like barbecues and stuff. There's like, you know. And so my chapter pack was thick. And Sergeant Allen, my platoon sergeant, he took me to the commander's office and, you know, sat me down. And she was like, okay, so Allen, you get out. And she's like, so what do you want to do with your life? I was like, well, I'm just going to go back to Fayetteville doing what I was doing. And she said, is that what you want to do? I was like, I have no choice. Look at that chapter packet. I mean, it's done. And she was like, well, I mean, that's my choice. I was like, oh, I should have changed my answer. Can I re-answer that? And she's like, well, now what do you want to do? I was like, I mean, I'd like to stay in if you want. And she was like, okay. All right, so I'm going to keep you. I'm going to give you one more chance. And I'm going to send you to Fort Lee. Another place I should never went.
No.
Because this is whenever you had trade off and you had the regular army together. course I go out there and I get in trouble again. Well, at first I told them I was fresh from AIT because I was E1. And then I got in trouble for drinking, and so I got busted down again. And then I made it through Fort Lee somehow, and I made it through most of Fort Lee. And then my mom went up missing, and so I had a compassionate reassignment to Fort Bragg, of all places. But Fort Bragg changed me though. Fort Bragg, I got a good sergeant major, and he took care of me. I finally made sergeant after all these years. I finally made sergeant, and then before he left, he made me go to the board and become promotable. And I became a platoon sergeant at my next location, which was Alaska. I was a platoon sergeant out there for 3 years, and then I went to Fort Bliss, where I met Sergeant Ford and Sergeant Golden. But I was a platoon sergeant out there, and I couldn't get promoted. So at this time, if you did your math, at this time I was promotable for almost 7 years. And I was just like, you know what, I'm done. I can't do this no more. I'm about to hang it up. I was hitting 10 years. I just seen like no hope. I was just like, man, I can't do this no more. I'm gonna get out. And it was Sergeant Golden, Elma, and Sergeant Brewer Clinton, my two mentors. And they was just like, both was like, you should become a career counselor. I'm like, oh, what is that? And they was like, what's what we do? I was like, I thought this was a additional duty.
They showed you the badge. Yeah, you were like, okay, it's real.
Well, I thought it was a drill. Like I thought it was like kind of like a drill sergeant badge. I was like, you just go do your detail and you come back. And so I went. I got accepted. I did the interviews and I went. And it was. But my first day was the worst experience ever. Once they told me there was math involved, I'm not very good at math.
It's kind of the job. It's kind of part of the job.
He's from Fayetteville.
Like, yeah, it's not his fault. He's from Fayetteville.
I got that North Carolina education. It's not that well. But anyways, I mean, no offense to him from North Carolina. I'm joking. Obviously, I made it through it.
He's not.
But so I went and I told Master Sergeant Washington straight up. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna make it through. And so every day I kept my bags packed because I knew I was going home. But every time I kept on passing, and I made it through the course. And I was super surprised. I was like, oh man, I can't believe I made it through this course. I'm officially happy, and I finally made staff sergeant, and I was stoked. I was at Fort Bliss, and then I served with DeVarty for a little bit longer, and then Sergeant Major Thompson, he came to training one day and he gave me a huge opportunity, and he was just like, hey, why are you hiding out here as an airborne soldier at Fort Bliss? And I was like, well, Sergeant Major, I'm not hiding. And he's like, well, I want you to put a packet in for USASOC. I was like, okay, I already know what that is, but okay, I will.
Yeah, hey, explain what USASOC is, because not everybody understands that.
So that's just your special forces community, and so you got your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. And
the dudes that grow beards and stuff, right?
Yeah, I tried that. It didn't work out.
It didn't work out.
Yeah, I got.
Yeah. I've seen you grow a beard. It doesn't work out.
Well, it does in parts. It does.
Well,
it does
so
in parts.
Sections.
It just doesn't connect. It doesn't connect.
And so then I shape it up like Rico Suave, and then I just go to the club like one time, and I come back and shape it off. Yeah.
But how was your experience in USASOC?
So USASOC was great. I was able to actually develop as a single leader by myself because nobody's there to really help me. I mean, you had Master O'Connell. He was my senior, but he pretty much entrusted his counselors to do the right thing and do everything on their own and come to him if they needed him. He's really, because he worked at HRC, he's like, well, did you read the regulation? And he was like one of those. So it was just like, I never wanted to ask him a question. But I had a great team there. It was awesome. But when I was at USASOC, I had another opportunity. I seen a flash message come down, and it said, I was right about to go to SOC, and a flash message came down to be an instructor. I was totally joking. And I said in the office, I was like, Sergeant Major Loomis was there. Master Sergeant O'Connell was there. And I was like, I think we'll put a packet in. 2 days later, they was like, oh, where's your packet? I was like, well, I was kind of just joking. And so I put my packet in and got accepted. And now I'm an instructor at the Recruiting and Retention College. And this has been one of the best jobs, the best job I've had.
It's definitely the best job. It's the best job you'll ever have.
So it's so rewarding because you get to see, and help these students and actually have an impact on our career field and actually help these students go through. And you see them have similar kind of situations that you run into, and you can really connect to the students and actually definitely help them through different things. Like we just got through service comp, and you have to talk to each student in a different way. And sometimes it takes you grabbing another instructor to maybe they can relate. And I just think it's an awesome atmosphere, and I'm happy to be where I'm at right now. And I'm glad I didn't get out at 10 years because now here it goes 15 years, and I've been a career counselor for 5 of them.
Nah, that's awesome, man. Adversity is only as tough as the person allows it to be. So when you allow that, when you bounce back, man, you showed that, hey, it's not that bad, man. It's really not. That's an amazing story, Robbie. Appreciate it. I'm gonna have you sit in the background for a few minutes. We're gonna bring on the next guest. That will be Sergeant First Class Trujillo. Just call him True. My Spanish isn't that great, guys. I'm trying, but it's not. Un poquito, right? Hey, Sergeant True, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about your Army story. Hey, you're muted. Yeah, you could be telling us anything right now.
My bad.
Hey,
first, thank you for having me on. I wanted to change the scenery a little bit because I'm enjoying this weather in JBLM. But so my story is not as intense or as great as the previous two individuals. But I started out in the Guard in 2006. Immediately deployed to Iraq in 07, 08, and I fell in love with the active duty, mindset and everything. So I did everything I could to try and go active duty at that time, but it was very hard for prior service to do that.
Yeah.
But I just kept grinding, and I was fortunate enough to get a retention job as a retention NCO at Joint Force Headquarters in California, Sacramento, and I fell in love with it. And
see what, baby?
See, there you go. So that was my first introduction in the retention field. And that opened up some opportunities for me to then go on TCS orders to Utah to work with the Community Warrior Transition Unit as their retention NCO. And I was responsible for 10 different states and medically retaining wounded reserve and Guard soldiers coming back from deployments. And so I thought that those orders were going to allow me to keep going. I was going to transition into AGR. But that didn't happen. So I had about 6 more months of the orders, and I had a family to think about, and I made the jump to go active duty. And so when I came active duty in 2013 as a 42 Alpha, I was stationed at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, by far the hidden gem of the Army. People say what they want, but Fort Leonard Wood that's where I'm trying to go. But when I got there, I got into the 43rd AG Battalion, and they didn't have a career counselor. So the Sergeant Major immediately threw me into the retention as a battalion retention NCO. And I did that for about a year and was successful. And got a phone call one day from retired now, but Sergeant Major Calhoun called my Sergeant Major and said, send Trujillo up to installation. And I thought I did something wrong. I don't know what I did, but that was the day I signed my 4187 to go to the retention field. And it was probably the best decision I've ever done. So signed my packet, went to school in October of 2015, immediately came back, worked as the senior career counselor at 14th MP Brigade. And then immediately following on, went to First ID, where I had the privilege of working with Sergeant First Class Sadler in the 2nd ABCT. We had a rotation out to Europe, to Poland and to Germany. And in the midst of that, Facebook was, we were getting on Facebook, and a notification came up to where they were standing up 2 more SFABs, 4th and 5th. And my wife at the time, about maybe a week before that, I reclassed her to a 482 Alpha from a tank mechanic. And so
That's a good upgrade. That's a good upgrade.
Absolutely. So I reclassed her and I said, hey, what do you think about Colorado, or what do you think about Washington? She was like, I want to go to Washington. So I put in my SFAB packet, and I got accepted, and we had the follow on, and got to JBLM in 2019. And I had the privilege of working under 7th ID for about 7 months because SFAB wasn't stood up yet. Got to go down to the border, work with soldiers down there and see that. And then came back and in process in July of 2019 and been in SFAB since.
Okay. Hey, I heard that I heard you were like a part of a special hidden team in the Army or something. Like I'm not sure what it is. Like something about like worms and stuff. What is that?
So it's Army Bass Anglers. So where it's affiliated by the Army. They represent. There's actually all 6 branches have their own teams. So there's several different organizations that do from bass fishing to Army hunters. I mean, duck hunting, hog huntings. But I'm fortunate enough to be on their Coalition Pro staff right now for the Army. And we go out, and our motto is support, defend, and fish. That support aspect comes into taking out soldiers to go, fish, and that never even picked up a pole. We go out and we volunteer with several different organizations and take wounded veterans, kids, anything. We put them on a boat and we take them out to have the time of their life. So, yeah, I'm fortunate to do that.
No, that's good stuff. I did not know the Army had a hog hunting team. I did not know that. They
also have a duck. They have a redfish. I mean, you'd be surprised about this. What this program has.
He takes that make mission and go fishing seriously.
Absolutely.
I mean, well, even in SFAB,
it's SFAB. You get 2 years.
Oh, here we go.
Fair share.
Oh,
fair share.
One re-up that y'all steal from somebody else.
No,
I'm messing.
I got you.
I'm joking. True. That's awesome, man. Like, that's really cool. Like, I really didn't know about the fishing part. And then going from Sacramento to Utah, like that's just Sacramento to Utah to Riley. Like your destiny was set to be a fisherman, man. Like there's nothing else to do in those places, like hunt and fish.
Absolutely.
Like, that's good stuff, man. We're gonna bring everybody else back on now, and we got a couple of questions. So now we get to look like the Brady Bunch.
All right. Let's see. I got a question for you guys. So, Sergeant Ford, this one is for you. Joel Nunez, one of our show's favorites, wants to know, how do you use your transition experience to educate the soldiers and counselors in your unit?
That's a great question. I share it. I don't hide it at all. I let soldiers know and that there's nothing that they can't overcome. You can't trump a DD-214, and if I can get back in, and there's hope for anybody. I think it's important to know how to use situations that could be perceived as your weakness as your strength, and that's what I do. Whenever soldiers are maybe in situations or when they get in trouble or they get Article 15, sometimes leaders may count them out, but I think it's important to let them know that, like, hey, you're valued. And I take special interest in soldiers that are being separated, because when soldiers are being chaptered, oftentimes they get overlooked, right? It's like, okay, well, they're being chaptered, walk them through, take them. No, until they no longer put this uniform on, they are service members and they are part of our team. So it's important for me to let them feel that way. So when they come through my office, you can always tell when they're being escorted. When someone comes in there with you and asks you to sign some paperwork, and that's a key sign that they're probably being chaptered. And then we sit down and we have a discussion like, what are you being chaptered for? What are your plans? No one had those conversations with me. No one talked about what your plans are when you get out. So I think it's important that counseling for me doesn't just stop when someone reenlists or if they can't reenlist. Mm-hmm. Like, we're career counselors. So it's just important from the day that they come in until the day they transition out. And I just try to embody that.
That's awesome. do you share your story that you share with us to soldiers on a regular basis about, especially like being homeless and being a soldier at the same time?
Yes, I don't have any shame, and every struggle that I've been through has helped me become the person that I am now. I've had senior leaders before tell me, well, you shouldn't tell everybody everything. Well, I'm not telling them every minute detail, but I think that those big things play a role in the leader that I am today. If I wouldn't have been homeless, I wouldn't have found out what a career counselor was, because I wouldn't have lived with Stacy. If I wouldn't have, gotten the letters in the mail from the Army that wouldn't let me go, I wouldn't have been back. And like, this is definitely what I feel like my journey is, and it's just a part of it. So we can't be ashamed of sharing our stories. We're quick to share our successes, right? Like, oh, I did this great, I got awarded this, but everything is not a high note. So when we hit those valleys, I just think it's important to share those equally.
No, that's
Cool.
that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So Sergeant Trujillo, someone wanted to know, where could they go to find out information about this program, this fishing team you were talking about?
So honestly, you just got to go to Google. Just type in Army Bass Anglers, and you'll pull it up on. And they actually have all the organizations that are affiliated with it. And it's not just fishing. If soldiers or veterans have a passion for hunting, fishing, volunteer work, anything, the sky's the limits there. And then you go through there, you select the program that you want, and you put in your application. They'll call you, they'll vet you, and as long as you meet all the criteria for it, they'll pick you up. And there's a lot of responsibilities that come with it. And I would tell you, me being a career counselor, I have it a lot easier being on the active component side, being able to meet the mission requirements, because there's a lot of volunteer work that comes into it. We don't just go out and we don't just fish, and that's it. But there's a lot of things that we do on the outside. So the simplest thing is Army Bass Anglers and Google.
Got you. Javon Joyner asked one question. He says, "At True, have you ever been wrong? Don't worry, I'll wait."
Fourth SVAT bringing the heat tonight.
Hey, I've been wrong numerous times, but I'll own it. I take it as not being wrong, but just it's a lesson learned, But it is what it is. I got you, Joyner.
Awesome. So Sergeant Patterson, so besides being an instructor, are there any clubs or anything like that you're a part of that could set you apart from, let's say, like your counterparts?
Well, yeah. So that's one thing I did fail to mention is so I'm part of the Sergeant Arnold Murphy Club, and I got into that because I did want to set myself apart from my peers, but also wanted to also get out there and find more opportunities to volunteer and get out there and help the community, and just be around leaders that help me be a better leader. Because just because you're part of the Sergeant Arnold Murphy Club doesn't mean it ends there. We all talk. We all try to help professionally grow each other, and we give each other information on how to be better here. Like especially when it comes to for us, instructor of the quarter. I mean, I've learned a lot from my brothers and sisters that's in the SAMC about how they get better at being competing at the instructor of the quarter.
So hey, if you really want to know how to be instructor of the quarter, but even beyond that, if you want to be like instructor of the year, you just gotta holler at me, man. I got you.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming.
I got you, man.
Awesome.
But no, Song 4, you are really inspiring folks. Your story is really showing people that it is. And here's the thing that we don't as career counselors, we don't always let everybody know. We don't always let everybody know our struggles, right? And that's a problem. We tell the Army story, but our story could be just as impactful. Song 4, your story right now, that rings true to soldiers. That comes to that rings true to soldiers. Song Patterson, your story of being knocked down from a young age and being told that you would never be shit, right? And then you grew out of that and you showed them, hey, I'm not just not gonna be shit. I'm gonna be something. True. You persisted. You show persistence. You said you wanted to get on active duty. It was hard back then to come on active duty from bringing prior service, from being in the reserves. It was hard. Shantae knows that struggle. But you show that persistence, and the fact that a lot of times soldiers come to us as career counselors and they don't understand that we are just like them. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've been through the struggles, we've been through the stuff with them. We know exactly what it is. Like, when Robbie, when you tell people that you got knocked down as specialist twice, well, private and then PFC, then private, bro, I was a specialist 4 times. Like, that was my favorite rank, like, because I made it so many times, right? We've been there. We've been through the struggles that these soldiers don't understand. And a lot of times, for us to be this career counselors that y'all are exceptional career counselors. For us to be this career counselors that we have to let our story be told, right? Like me, I told my counselors the other day, I ran into a first sergeant that I had on Fort Eustis that literally told me when I had got shot back in 2005 that I thought you'd be dead. You'd be in jail or dead. And then he saw me on Fort Eustis because he works at TRADOC as a civilian. And he was like, damn, you a first sergeant? God. Like I'm like, first of all, I'm not a first sergeant. I'm a math sergeant. Big difference, right? I don't leave soldiers. I just re-enlist them, right? But like, our stories are inspirational. All of y'all have stories that every career counselor does. Like, the fact that y'all are all doing this is amazing. I really appreciate y'all doing that. We got a couple of comments. Ford True Patterson's from Joel Nunez, who's a little mad at me right now. Because he feels like I don't show his career counselor course the same love I show other career counselor courses. But I love class.
Mine either.
I love class 002-17 career counselor course. Yeah, I remember numbers, right? I do love them, right? But his question is, Ford True Patterson, who are your mentors and what is the greatest lesson you learned from them? We'll go in reverse order. So True, you go first.
So I would say my greatest mentor is Master Sergeant Bobby Head. And he's I believe he's still the TRADOC analyst right now, but he literally took me in under his wing, and it was part of one of the, which leads into the lessons learned, is that it's not always good to be first, and be cocky about it. And I think when I first got to Riley, I had that mindset because I left Leonard Wood just blowing people out of the water. And I thought that, as long as you made mission, you're untouchable. But he really pulled me in and grounded me and humbled me. So he is my number one mentor, which leads into my lessons learned. And it's just being humble, and even though that you might have they call it the gift of gab. When you're talking to soldiers, it's you still have to make sure that you're meeting the commander's intent in all aspects. And so just be humble, and be a team player. Go out when you see one of your peers or one of your battle buddies that are struggling. Don't just sit back and watch out. Take the time, walk down to their footprint, and just be like, hey, I'm just here to help. And if you want, if you need me to do your eye perms, or if you need me to, just whatever you could do to help them to get above water, and to get back on glide path, you just got to be, that's what you got to do. So, yeah.
Nah, most definitely. One team, one fight.
Yep.
I mean, if the weakest link is weak, then we're all weak.
Mm-hmm.
Robbie, what's give one of your mentors and one of the greatest lessons you learned from them?
Well, like I always tell everybody, it's gonna be Master Sergeant Brewer. Master Sergeant Brewer, he always said, you're a soldier first, then you're a career counselor. So what he meant by that, from what I took from that, is, you get out there, you train with your soldiers, you go to the field with your soldiers, you learn how your soldiers are. And I always say, you go out there and you learn your community. You learn your community, now you can interact with your community, and you can talk their kind of lingo. And so they're going to trust you more. My success in it come from just being a counselor at USASOC. 18 series look down at us. They think that we're losers or we're weak. Yep. But because I went out there and I went to Africa with them, I went out there, I went to the range with them. I went out there and did ruck marches with them. I went out there and did jumps with them. They respect me because I went out there and I made myself uncomfortable. I would say everybody out there, counselor or not, you got to make yourself uncomfortable to be successful.
I totally agree. I couldn't have said it better. And Kendra, one of your mentors, and what lessons have you learned from them?
It's really hard for me to narrow my mentors down to one because I tell people quick, it takes a village to raise a Sergeant Ford. Y'all just don't even know. Like, my village is strong. Command Sergeant Major Katrina Richardson would be my first. You all just had her on your show. When I
Yes,
worked
we
for the
did.
general at Fort Gordon, she was a Sergeant First Class, Audie Murphy. And she came into the office one day. I was doing something and acting like, I don't know, probably like I didn't have good sense. And I remember she called me in the copy room and she shut the door. And I will never forget the speech that woman gave me to this day. And I was a specialist. And she's become a sister. She's a mentor. When she was here, she was my personal trainer. And now that she has a brigade, I feel lost, but she keeps up with me with my Apple Watch and sends me nasty messages when all three of my rings don't close, but I'm not bitter. But she's just a phenomenal example of what a leader should be. I have Command Sergeant Major retired Wofford, was my first FA. Well, my first Sergeant Major when I became a counselor in 184 FA. I was the first enlisted female in that unit. And I remember him very early on saying, you need to determine what type of counselor you're going to be, because there's a stereotype attached to us, unfortunately, right? And he was like, you need to determine, are you going to be the counselor to just come in, make mission, that's all you talk to soldiers about, or are you going to be invested? So
Yes.
I remember he made me the FOB mayor when we deployed. I was like, I can't do that. He's like, yeah, you'll be fine. And every day was like, kiddo, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that lesson that he taught me back in 2010 has stayed with me to this day. My career council mentor, Sergeant Major Bushnell. Sergeant Major Bushnell was my senior when I was in MedCom. And I have a very combat arms mindset, especially being with FA, going to the field with them, getting in, just being a part of that, being immersed in that. And then the Army says, hey, you're going to MedCom. It was not a smooth transition for Sergeant Ford at all. It was probably one of the toughest transitions I had as a counselor. And he always was like, it doesn't matter where you are, right? Get embedded into your unit based off of the type of unit that you're in and make the best of it. So I've been very fortunate to have some officers, Major Stephen Eaton, who taught me the importance of servitude leadership and let me stay in 2017 when I was in Afghanistan, let me stay in the JOC and just learn operations from him. And to be an officer, we don't do much with the three, right? We do very little with the three. Taught me the importance of learning MDMP, taught me the importance of how to be a better team member, right? Versus just being a great career counselor, because there is a distinct difference in the two. And I always remember, and one thing Sergeant Major Richardson reminds me, I'm an NCO first. You can take this badge off, you can take whatever you want away. I am a senior non-commissioned officer first, and I try to lead with that.
No, that's awesome. And every NCO should take heed to what you're saying. Fudgy and Felicia Crooms, they said thank you for all your contribution and sacrifice to the career field and to the Army as a whole. Class 001-18. I'm thinking that's for me. Joel said it's not about me, but it's not about me. It's about y'all. I ain't nobody, man. I ain't gonna be here in a few, right? When I retire, ain't nobody gonna know my name, right? But none of us. Yeah. Well, Shantae will know my name, right, Shay? But we are doing good things. Y'all are doing amazing. So like we're gonna wrap it up. We don't have any more questions, so we're gonna wrap it up. So we're gonna allow y'all to do your little shout outs. We do shout outs at the end of each show. So we're gonna start. True, you could go first.
So the shout outs I'm gonna give is to my counselor, Sergeant First Class Grant. That counselor is I'd go to bat for him anytime. And when I first got him, it was a little interesting because with some of the counselors in our field that are coming out of the basic course, I don't know where they came up with where they don't think they have a first sergeant or commander anymore, and that they just work only for the sergeant major and the commander. And that wasn't Grant's issue, but I just wanted to highlight that and put that into my speech. But so Grant did a 180 from everything that we did, and it was a great teaching moment for me because it also opened up some flaws into me as a career counselor that once again I thought I knew everything. The regulation says this and that's that, but being afforded the opportunity to have that opportunity to work with a counselor that I can educate and mentor and see him succeed, that's the most fulfilling thing as a leader. So my shout out is to Sergeant First Class Grant Terrence out of he belongs all 1 through 6 battalions. He's a career counselor out there. So that one's for you,
my
Grant.
brother.
The dancing machine.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sergeant Grant, right? Robbie, you up next, man. Who do you want to shout out?
Well, of course, I'm gonna shout out my whole team. Here at the RRC for the Career Counselor course, and actually SLC as well. Sergeant Hancock and Sergeant Lee are absolutely killing it for these two courses going on right now. And then Sergeant Drina is killing it as chief. And then we just got Sergeant Major Straight, which is awesome. So we have a whole new and approved team going here. We're knocking it down, and we're knocking it out the park. And I just want to shout out my team. We're really killing it.
All right, good looking out. All right, Sergeant Ford, Kendra, it's your turn. Who you want to shout out this week?
Well, we're going to shout out Team 1AD. I think sometimes people think that it's just horrible. We have a great retention team. Sergeant Major Jensen is by far one of the best command career counselors I've ever had the honor of working with. He's just a genuinely good person. He's invested in his team. We have some amazing counselors here. I feel like every day we're getting new counselors, but we've had some amazing teams. And I've seen a lot of command career counselors go through here in my 6 years. And to see what Sergeant Major Jensen has just done with our program. And at some point, we were like the worst division in the Army. And I happened to be the worst brigade at the time in the worst division in the Army.
So you was at like the bottom.
No, we were the bottom. Like 1AD was the worst, and 1st Brigade was the worst when I was in 1st Brigade. Luckily, my battalion was not the worst battalion, so there's some saving grace there, right? And just to see.
So you was like the best of the bums.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, small victories, right?
Yeah, small little.
But to see what Sergeant Major Jensen did, just building us as a team to make us feel collectively together. You couldn't get us to sit at a lunch table together, but to see what he built, I think that is something to be applauded. And we just have a really amazing team. I would like to talk about just a few seconds about a great initiative that I'm a part of, and it's a drunk driving prevention program that is a nonprofit 501(c) program that I happen to be in charge of. It's called the DDPP, the Drunk Driving Prevention Program. Some installations have it right now. What we're designed to do is to end DUIs on Army installations. We are, we're driven and we're geared towards service members, but we will pick up civilians as long as they have an ID card. And the way our program works is a little bit different. We actually will pick up the soldier as well as pick up, have someone drive their vehicle back to their home. Because I know there have been times where I've had to leave my vehicle somewhere so I don't get a DUI, and I'm like the next day, like, now I got to call somebody to get over here to get my vehicle back. I was fortunate enough to become a part of it as the chapter president at Fort Riley, and I'm the CEO now. Our goal, and we're proposing it to everybody, we've sent information to the SMA and everywhere, to get a chapter on every at least CONUS location in the Army if we can. So those that are interested, they can go to www.ddp.us to find out information. And if you're looking for officers, if you'd like to start a chapter, then you can sign up for there as well. Within 6 months of constant, volunteering, soldiers qualify for their MOVSM. So like it's a win-win for everybody. We can help keep people in our ranks, and then we can also help make sure that people are being recognized for their great things. So
no, that's awesome. If you could drop the information in the comments later on,
sure.
And and that way we'll be able to get more people. Definitely gonna look and see if we got one at Eustis. If not, I'll start it.
Yeah.
We do have one.
We need one at Bragg.
It's dormant.
It's dormant.
Yeah, dormant.
I'll make my counselors be a part of it.
Okay.
I got you.
Thank you.
I got you.
Yeah.
Hey, thank y'all everybody for coming on. Now it's time for our shout outs. AJ, who you want to shout out this week?
I'm actually going to shout out everybody that came on. I actually had saw Robbie made a post on his personal page, and I saw it, and I was like, hey, I was wondering what we're going to do for the next show. And everybody on the show this week had gone through something that I had personally gone through in my personal life. So it resonated, and it made me think, like, there's probably other soldiers out there that, may have gone through difficult times like Kendra had, or, been told that they weren't going to succeed or anything like that, like Robbie, or, gone through issues with, coming back in, or other issues like True had. So I'd like to shout out them. I mean, they've overcome obstacles and became better people and better soldiers because of it.
Nah, that's awesome. These three have been amazing. The stories are awesome. The comments say so. Shantae, who you want to shout out?
All right. So after listening to Kendra's story, it brought me back to my roots. I started in a DeVarty too. So this week, I got a twofer. I'm going to shout out my brothers, Colin Crooms and Luis Vasquez. We all went to the course, the career counselor course, kind of like back to back, and they're my brothers. I can call them at any time, and they're always going to answer for me. So shout out to them because they're still career counselors. I don't know how. One of them's at the schoolhouse. I don't know how, but shout out to them. And then also I want to shout out to the 7th ID career counselors out there at JBLM. Like I said, I was out there visiting them this week, and I got to participate in their town hall and kind of hear what they're going through, you know, in their footprints. And then you see this awesome polo I'm wearing. Shout out to Amber Minear. She was one of my classmates. She's the junior ops. Master Sergeant Erickson, he's their senior ops, and he was my proponent NCO when I was going through the basic course. And then, of course, their command career counselor, Sergeant Major Schillerith. So that's all I got this week, and I look forward to talking to everybody here probably next week.
Nah, hey, shout out to Rich. You know I love you. It's my guy. He's amazing career counselor. Minear, soldier. Like that was one of my funniest students. Because Minear would be, whenever she would get nervous or scared, she turned bright red. Like, it was hilarious. Like, I could just get her scared.
Oh, you remember her class?
Yeah, I remember her class.
You remember her class?
Yeah, it was class 004-16. I remember, first of all,
okay.
shout out to all shout out to all the career counselors in the field that I taught, since people get sensitive and stuff, right? Half of the schoolhouses is students I taught right now. So I'm really proud of that. Robbie, you're not part of that half. You know how half works, right? Like if there's 6, 3 of them are half. Like yeah, actually more than half. I take credit for the schoolhouse right now. No, but shout out to all the career counselors doing great things. You guys are doing great things, and we'll see you next week. We got a great show lined up. We'll be putting it out, and thank y'all. All right, have a good one.
Good night.